Welcome to our BAM session, Broker Agent Mastermind. Good to have everyone here. We're starting to get into the season. It's April and things are getting ready to take off, so be ready. I would definitely be hitting up your database right now because there's lots of people who are getting ready to start thinking about making some kind of move, either selling or buying. So now you want to be top of mind, right? You don't want to show up at some soccer game or a baseball game or show up to church and somebody that's a very close friend of yours says, "Oh, guess what? We just bought a house." And you're thinking, "Well, what do you mean you just bought a house? Why didn't you talk to me?" Well, they might not talk to you, might not have spoken to you because you weren't top of mind, because you're not getting the word out about you being that real estate person that they've always dreamt of working with. So make sure you're getting the word out through social media and other ways, reaching out to your database. You definitely want to be top of mind right now. So, okay, well, let's get into our teaching time today. I wanted to talk about the concept of signal versus noise. Have you heard that concept? Raise your hand if you've heard that concept, signal versus noise. Some of you have heard of it. How many of you have heard of the concept of noise? Okay. Just noise. We get bombarded with massive amounts of noise every day, right? The noise comes through tens of thousands of messages that are we're being bombarded with every day. It's crazy. Constant messages. And some of us, we get into our phone and we are doom scrolling, right? You're scrolling because it just one video leads to another. And I keep thinking, when I get to the last video, then I'll put my phone down. But there is no last video. It will go forever, right? So we can get distracted so often, and so much of what comes in to us is noise through advertisements, especially if you're a real estate agent. How many of you are getting 5 or 10 text messages a day or a week for medical insurance or health insurance through NAR? It's not really through NAR. It's some company in a foreign country trying to sell you something, and we get on these lists. So it's crazy how much spam we're getting, how many spam text messages we're getting. There's so much news out there. You're getting news updates on your phone, just messages. And it's easy for us to get distracted with that type of messaging. So I wanted to talk to you about a concept that's been coming up there, and they call it signal versus noise. Originally, this concept started like back in the 1940s with transistor radios. And when they were trying to perfect radio communication, a lot of times in the signals, there would be a lot of noise and you couldn't make out the actual voice. So one of the chief things they were focusing on as engineers was to get rid of the static that was overcoming the voice so that they could hear the voice clearly in those communications. Well, that's where the concept of signal versus noise started. And then Nate Silver, who was once upon a time, he was a great election predictor. He up until Trump, he was able to predict all the elections. Trump messed all that up, and everything went out the window. But before that, he was quite an election predictor, one of the best in the country. And he actually wrote a book called Signal versus Noise. And in that book, he talked about all the messaging. And in his world, a lot of it had to do with predicting election results. And there'd be so many news stories that would come out and would blur what's really going on in the national scene. So Nate Silver somehow was able to get rid of the noise, the stuff that wasn't really relevant, and focus on the information that was actually critical. So that's where this idea developed. And then taking it to the next level, business people are now using this concept of signal versus noise. And I want to call your attention to a video that is from Kevin O'Leary. So Kevin O'Leary used to work with Steve Jobs early on. This is before they all were, were before Kevin was the 100 millionaire that he is now. And he has an interesting story about Steve Jobs and signal versus noise that I wanted to share with you. So here we go.
So I used to work for guys like Steve Jobs and others in my career. Let me give you one that I think is very important. We'll start with this one. I used to work for Steve Jobs in the early 90s, making all of his educational software. I mean, it was just, there they are. My goodness, you guys do good research. Those are the kind of things that we did for him. Yeah, all of that. It's hard to find. Those are CD-ROMs. But, and I would say, Steve, we got to do some market research on Oregon Trail. I mean, it's a huge title. It's in 110,000 school buildings. We got to do an update. It's going to cost you 12, 15 million bucks. We want to find out what the students want. We want to find out what the teachers want to find out what the parents want. Steve would say, by the way, not a nice guy. Not a nice guy. He would say to a room full of people, Kevin, I don't give a shit what the students want or the parents think or anybody thinks. It's what I want. They don't know what they want till I tell them what they want. And I said, Steve, you sound like such an asshole. You have no idea what that sounds like. He says, no. That's how it is, Kevin. Now, are you making money with me? Am I your fastest growing OEM? Have we not been wildly successful and continue to be? I said, yes, Steve, that's true. He said, then shut up and do what I say.
That's how he would talk to you.
100%. And here's what I learned. Look how wildly successful he was. But here's why. There's a concept that he understood that very few people focused on back then in the early 90s of signal to noise ratio. What was so brilliant about Jobs that I tell every CEO now, and I don't care if you're an S&P 500 CEO or you're just starting a business, his vision of signal was the top 3 to 5 things you have to get done in the next 18 hours. Not your vision for the business next week or next month or next year, just the next 18 hours you're awake. You're going to get those 3 things or those 5 things done that you have deemed critical for your mission. They must get done today. Anything that stops you from doing that is the noise. So this signal to noise ratio to be successful for Steve Jobs was 80-20. 80 signal, 20 noise. And I knew that to be true with him because he would email me at 2:30 in the morning, expect me to get back to him because back then we didn't have texts. It was all email. He was right. He was right. And the only other person that I've seen that has a higher ratio than that is Elon Musk. He has no noise. He does not deal with noise. He is 100% signal, 24 seconds, every cycle. I mean, the guy is just 60 seconds of every minute, 60 minutes of every hour. The 18 hours he's awake, it's all signal. And look what he's achieved. Now, it's very awkward for him socially because noise is dealing with your family sometimes, or noise is saying hi to a friend, or noise is listening to some doom scrolling on, some social media app that just takes your mind, or maybe playing your guitar. But very few people on earth, and if you go back in history, you're going to find out that the geniuses of their time were close to 100% signal.
And so I can really sort of summarize this for my audience. Signal is the most urgent thing you should be focused on right now, and noise is basically everything else.
The goals you set for that you were awake. If you're going to be awake 18 hours, and you've determined that there's 3 things you have to get done, you're going to get those done. No matter what it takes, you're going to get those done. And you're not going to let anything distract you from the 3 to 5 things. If you're a CEO and you achieve that and you can get those done with 80% of your time based on that, you're extraordinarily successful. You are absolutely, and you're Steve Jobs, or you're an Elon Musk, or you're somebody. If you even talk to Bezos, I don't know him personally, but I've heard in many interviews, like I knew, I've met Elon just a few times. I spent a lot of time with Jobs, but they say the same thing. Bezos will not make a decision after 1 o'clock in the afternoon because he felt that the noise was too high. The signal for him was in the morning hours. This is a crucial aspect of success that I now understand to be the ability of it defines an entrepreneur. A man or woman that understands the signal noise ratio, that focuses on that, they'll be successful.
Okay, so he talks about Steve Jobs. He also talks about Elon Musk, and it's funny. I've heard stories of Elon Musk. He is so focused on signal versus noise that there's people who have seen him like at dinner parties, and someone will come up and start talking to him, and in his brain he's computing during that conversation, this isn't helping me advance my goals. And he'll just walk away in the middle of the conversation. Now, I think there's a lot of there's some relational components that could be addressed there, of course, but that's how focused he is on signal versus noise. If it's not going to help him, if he doesn't feel like this is a helpful conversation, he'll just walk away. And as you can imagine, I'm sure Elon Musk gets involved in zillions of conversations, and not all of those are going to be valuable. Now, let's turn now to Patrick Bet-David. He's one of my guys that I love to listen to, and he also addresses this concept of signal versus noise. And Patrick Bet-David approaches this. This was back, I think, as he was setting up his goals for 2025. So this has a couple years of age on it, but it's pretty much evergreen material, still valuable for us today.
So I want to share something intimate with you. Every year in December, I write my business plan out. When I write this business plan out, it's very thorough. It has to do with what I did this year with my family, decisions about my wife, my kids, what areas of improvement, grand slams, new connections I want to make, new contacts I want to make, areas I need to improve in, all of that stuff that is in here. But one of the things I wrote in this year's business plan, I want to share with you. I think it's going to give you value going into the year because it's going to be a very, very noisy year, more than ever before. Especially, we just saw a study that came out that said we are consuming 82 hours of information right now per week. 69% of our waking hours we're consuming information. We've never had a number like this before. This is brand spanking new. It's a full-time job getting all this news and information and social and stuff that's being fed to us. Our brain doesn't know how to handle that. So how do you differentiate between all that other stuff? If you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. So business plan at the front. I always put a word at the top. 2025 for me, it's called the year of surprises. Every year I choose one word. This year I chose 3 words, 3 areas to focus on. Number 1, speed and efficiency. To me, it's speed. Number 2 is product, how to make every product better. PBD Podcast, Manek, BDC, Bet-David Consulting, how we do VTnews.ai. Our merch absolutely improve the product, how I can become a better host, better presenter, better everything, it's product. But the last one is signal versus noise. And what I mean by signal is this behavior and whatever we're spending time with, is this going to scale the business and take us to the next level? Yes. Is this what we're spending time with? What's the return of time that we're putting into this? Not a lot. Is this story you're sharing with me with drama about a ex-employee from 2 years ago? That's noise. Why am I even putting time into this? That's not helping us scale the business to the next level. I want to minimize noise as much as possible. I cannot tell you how many people are already texting me and telling me, did you see this? Did you hear this? Did you know that? Here's what happened. If it's not having to do with an article I have to read or a book to read that's growing us to the next level, and it's not signal, it's noise, I am not interested. And by the way, it's not easy to do because 82 hours a week we're being fed information, and you have to say, no, not interested, not interested. Wow. Wasted time, wasted time. Oh my God, right? Now, let me read this next part for you. That's my favorite part that I think everybody would benefit from this. How battle tested are you? How tough are you? How battle tested are you? How thick is your skin? How much criticism can you take? How much hate can you handle? How much of people saying things to you to hurt you, you flight? Do you freeze? Are you one that just runs away because somebody said something that hurts your feelings? Are you one that freezes and goes hide somewhere and doesn't want to say anything? Or are you one that stands up and either does nothing to you and you move on, or you sit there and say, I'm sorry, how did you come out to that conclusion? That's not true. Sometimes in life, you have your own new reputation you're trying to create, but there's a reputation following you from 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago, a year ago. It's your job to clear that up, or else it's always going to be following you. No, that's not true. It's not how it is here. Now, I don't know if I agree with that. No, that's not what we do here. That's actually not true. We're at a meeting in DC, Spotify puts a private dinner together, not available to the public, but it was private. Myself, Lex Friedman, Jason, Shamat, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, Sagar, Fox, the head of Fox for their digital, all these guys. It's like 20 of us in the room there. And there was a moment which was amazing where somebody is saying something and then Shamat's like, that's not true. That's not true. That's not. And then you saw everybody's kind of going back and forth, seeing this discussion taking place. And all of us, we're doing what we're doing. It was a beautiful moment that this collective group had together. It should have been recorded. I told them that was a real podcast versus what it wasn't, but signal versus noise. Let me read to you what I added to an area of 2025 to focus on. You ready? Here's how it goes. I'll read the whole thing to you. You are battle tested. I'm writing it to myself, but I'll say it to you as well. You are battle tested, but just like video games, there are levels to this game. This next one will be a big one. If you make it through the next level of being battle tested, you will exponentially grow. Few things you will have to embrace. Which fights to fight, which fights to ignore, prevent being provoked. If you're going to fight, fight up, not down. Negative, bitter, entitled victims with time on their hands will try to get under your skin. This is their way of getting confirmation and validation. Don't fall for this trap. Mark Twain once said, you can't argue with stupid people. They will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. I have learned over the years that people like to verbally hit below the belt. Be self-aware of this. Be like a water well. Stay at 64 degrees Fahrenheit. No matter how hot or cold the weather is outside, the water well is always 64 degrees. Don't let things change you on the outside. Don't be like this. Be as close to this as possible. Nobody is this. This is dead. But don't be this, right? You want to stay here, okay? Focus on signal instead of noise. There will be a ton of noise in 2025. Things that seem important, but maybe distracting. Keep asking yourself and your team which behavior improves the product and which is just noise. Don't digress from this mindset. I believe 2025 is going to be a magical year to a lot of people. But I also believe 2025 or some it's going to go like this because they got stuck with all the noise. And that noise distracted the hell out of you. That year went by. You didn't pour into the right relationships. You wasted time being a victim, falling for the trap of being a victim, feeling sorry for yourself. Friends that are all noise, that are stealing years away from your life and you're not even aware of it. Some of them are blood disguised as family, but they're actually stealing years away from your dreams and your life, from the right communities you're a part of. How you handle in 2025 will dictate where you'll be on December 31st, 2025, where you're writing out your New Year resolution in 2026. You're either going to say, good job for focused on signal, or you're going to say, another wasted year because noise got a hold of me and wasted another flipping year. This is why I suggest 2025, whatever you do on your phone, have it say signal, focus on signal, not noise. The future is bright for those who focus on signal. If you have any questions that have to do with signal or noise, or you want to meet somebody that can help you with this mindset, shoot me a Connect. Download the app, shoot me a Connect. That's the only app where I respond to 100% of the messages in audio, not text. You're going to hear my voice responding back to you. If you want to go a little bit deeper on this topic, send me a Connect. If you got value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe.
Okay, so excellent stuff there. Applies just as well in 2026 as it did in 2025. And so how's your year shaping up for you so far? 2026, are you distracted by noise so far? Have you been able to focus on signal and really get some things done? Now, briefly, I'm going to show one more video clip of Elon Musk talking about the same topic.
Over noise. A lot of companies get confused. They spend money on things that don't actually make the product better. For example, at Tesla, we've never spent any money on advertising. We put all of the money into R&D and manufacturing and design to try to make the car as good as possible. I think that's the way to go. For any given company, just keep thinking about, are these efforts that people are expending, are they resulting in a better product or service? And if they're not, stop those efforts.
Okay, so they're focusing on signal over noise, not getting distracted, staying focused on what's important. So for us as agents, there's so many things that can distract us. Social media is clearly at the top. The problem with social media for us as agents is that we do social media as a part of our job, right? So you're getting into social media and you're posting things to help push your business forward. And and then it's so easy to get distracted by it while you're in there. Maybe you're going in to do a quick post, and then all of a sudden, an hour later, you're realizing, oh my gosh, I just blew an hour sitting there doom scrolling. So it's sort of like it's sort of like a person who has a drug problem, but their job every day is measuring out the drug that they actually have a problem with. So, they're constantly thinking about the drug. And I've heard for people who have obesity problems, one of the problems with that, maybe they have a food addiction, but you do have to eat every day. So they're still faced with that. That's why people with food addictions struggle. So here we are as realtors, we're trying to overcome the social media addiction, but it's a part of our job. So we have to be so careful to be focused. I know some agents who have actually removed social media from their smartphone so that they can stay focused during the day. And then when they're doing their social media, it can be a very proactive moment where they get on their computer, they open up Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, and they do their work on social media, and then they can put it away. That way they're not distracted throughout the day with endless updates and getting poked every few minutes every time there's some kind of an update on social media. So, another area where I see agents they get distracted, it's just noise, would be in research. Some agents they get, research is a good thing, but some agents they get distracted by research because they never get into the mode of committing action to their business. They're spending all their time researching. They never get to the point where they're doing stuff. And it also, I've seen this with agents who want to get organized, right? Organization is fantastic. I highly recommend it. Get organized with your business. But some agents spend all their time organizing and not actually doing the work that helps move their business forward. So be careful not to get caught in those traps. Administrative stuff. Some agents spend all their time doing the administrative stuff rather than actually getting in and doing the work that's going to advance their business. And I've heard it said, if you don't have an administrative assistant, then you are your administrative assistant. Okay, so and maybe you don't have time or the resources to add like a virtual assistant or an administrative assistant or a transaction coordinator. Maybe you don't have the resources to add that person now, but we've got to keep in mind, in order to build your business at some point, you're going to need to bring other people into your business who can help you with those administrative tasks. So that will help you to focus on the signal rather than the noise of the business. I like what Elon Musk said, that some companies get all caught up. Just an example, maybe in marketing, and they've never actually marketed their Tesla cars. They've never done advertising, and that's quite a different way to approach business, isn't it? What car companies are out there and they're not going to do advertising? Well, he felt like that's noise. They're going to focus on making the car the greatest thing that they can possibly engineer. And I drive a Tesla, so I think they've actually done pretty well at that. So they don't get distracted. Agents sometimes can get distracted in business. I remember when I first got into business, into the real estate business. I was with a Remax office, and we had a mentoring program, right? And so whenever you hear of these mentoring programs, always be skeptical, because most agents, especially if it's an agent in your office, they're not going to tell you their best stuff that's actually helping them to build their business, because you're basically a competitor. And so I remember my Remax broker, he said, oh, we've got a mentoring program. So several months into it, I hadn't heard anything about the mentoring program. So I said, hey, so how's this mentoring program thing work? How can I find my mentor? He said, oh, okay, we'll partner you up with Alice. the names have been changed to protect the innocent here. So he said, we'll set you up with Alice. And so I started meeting with Alice. And so Alice, tell me, how have you built this amazing business? What did you do? And she said, newsletters. I was like, really, newsletter? You built this massive business through a newsletter? She said, yeah, I send out every month. I send out 200 newsletters. I mail them out, and I have a mailing day. And I take time and I write up these articles and I print them out. I fold them up, put them in envelopes, mail them out to 200 people. I do this every month. I was like, newsletters. Wow. It never dawned on me that a newsletter would help someone build this massive business. Turns out it wasn't the newsletter. That was a distraction. She wasn't going to tell me what she was really doing to build this great business. So this was just a distraction. Newsletter. Yeah, go do newsletters. That'll do it. And that was noise. That wasn't the actual signal of what she was doing. And I like the way Elon Musk is looking at this. He's basically saying, certain things in the auto business can be noise. And he's not going to focus on those things. He's going to focus on what helps him build the best car possible. And so for your business, be careful not to get distracted by all these different opportunities. You're getting emailed and texted all the time of people that want to sell you stuff. Be careful not to get distracted about the things that can actually advance your business. So let me give you a few tips, okay? And then we'll call this a day. The first thing I would say to focus on signal rather than noise is, and I've said this so many times, you're probably tired of it. Write your goals down, okay? Write your goals so it's crystal clear in front of you what you're trying to accomplish with your life, okay? Write down your top 10 goals for life, or for at least the next 5 or 10 years, your top 10 goals. Write them down every day, okay? I was doing this decades ago, and it was life-changing for me, and it completely transformed everything about my life. So write your goals down, post them everywhere, around your home, sticky notes, put it on your steering wheel of your car, on your mirror, in your bathroom, put your goals, make sure you see them all the time, okay? And then I would say, try to reduce your goals to numbers. Now, I like what Patrick Bet-David did. He reduced it to words, 3 words, and that's a great idea. I like to try to reduce it to numbers because numbers are something that I can quantify. I know if I hit it, I know specifically. So just an example, for our brokerage for this year, I've got the number 500, okay? I'm hoping to hit 500 agents by the end of, well, not hit them. I want to recruit 500 agents before the end of the year. That's our roster. Right now we're at 450, so we have another 50 to go. So every day I see this number 500. We did this, and I think Scott probably remembers, maybe some of you remember, I had a wristband made a couple years ago that had the number 300 on it. And my goal was to get Plum Tree to 300 agents. That was the goal for the year. Now we're at 450, trying to hit 500. Okay, so I reduced that goal to 500. So all my other goals for business kind of dovetail into that one goal. So if we can hit 500, the other goals will naturally, it's like a domino effect, those will also be hit. So, but try to reduce your goals to something quantifiable. Write it down and think about it every day. Obsess over it. Okay. So then after you do that, then you're writing down your to-do list each day, right? And you want to ask yourself on each thing or each opportunity that you have, or every person that calls you and they want to have a lunch appointment with you, or they want to get on your calendar for this or that. Before you acknowledge that and say, I'm going to do that, before you accept that invitation, you need to be thinking, is this going to move me toward my goals, or is this going to move me away from my goals? Okay. So be careful about what's on your calendar. Does this move you toward your goals, or does this move you away from your goals? So if the answer is yes, that it will advance your goals, then do it. If the answer is no, it's not going to advance your goals, then don't do it. Maybe delegate it to somebody else. Maybe procrastinate on that thing, or maybe just remove it from your to-do list altogether. So now, when I'm doing my to-do list, I'll write out my list every day. I've got 15 or 20 things on my to-do list. Okay. However, after I've written out that big list, I always go back through and I highlight 3 things. These are the 3 things I'm going to focus on. And similar to what Steve Jobs was doing, he's looking at 3 things that he absolutely has to get done. These are essential to get these things done within the next 18 hours to move the mission forward. Okay. So, I find that to be a great way to focus on what's truly important. The last little tip I'll give you is to carve out 1 or 2 90-minute time blocks each day. Okay. So maybe have a 90-minute time block in the morning and a 90-minute time block in the afternoon. And during that 90-minute time block, I say 90 minutes because our brains, after 90 minutes, our brains begin to melt down. So 90 minutes is about the maximum amount of time we can focus on something and not melt down. Okay. So what you want to do is have a 90-minute time block in the morning, 90 minutes in the afternoon. And during that 90 minutes, you turn off all notifications, close out your email, get rid of anything that's barging into your life that day. And for 90 minutes, you're going to be like a horse that has the blinders on, where it can't see anything around them. It's focused on the path straight ahead. And you're going to keep those blinders on so you can only see straight ahead for 90 minutes. And you're going to knock out in the morning that critical thing that has to be done today. You're going to spend, maybe it's prospecting. Maybe that's the critical thing that's going to move you forward. So 90 minutes in the morning, you're going to do 90 minutes of prospecting. Nothing else in the world is going to take you off of that task. Then you get through that 90-minute time block, and you basically can catch up on all the administrative things, catch up on messages, catch up on whatever the crises things, put out a couple fires, do that. Then you get into the afternoon, you have another 90-minute time block. Now, when I do it, I'll take my phone and say, set timer for 90 minutes. And then it's got the 90 minutes going. So I'll use my phone for that. And then I set my phone to the side. I don't look at it, put it face down, and then I'll work until that timer goes off and stay focused. So I found that type of time blocking to be one of the most helpful for me in knocking out those essential things. So anyways, focus on signal. Don't get distracted by noise. And there's probably no time period in the history of mankind when we've had more noise and more distractions than today. So be careful to focus on that which is truly important. Focus on that which is going to move your business forward. Do a couple 90-minute time slots, knock it out of the park, go sell some houses, make some contacts, do the hard stuff. If you do the hard stuff now, you'll be able to do the easy stuff later in your life. So focus on doing the things that are really going to make a difference. So have a fabulous week, and we'll see you soon.